is an island community, an island nation. So we have 700 islands. It's kind of like the Seychelles, but it's in the Atlantic Ocean. So the Bahamas is north of Jamaica. Maybe you've heard of Jamaica. We're north of Jamaica. We are south of Florida in the United States. There are only 400,000 people that live in the Bahamas. Right? So it's a very small population. It's a small country. We do not have any mountains. We don't have any mountains, but we're very low lying. So our highest point, is there a better place for me to stand?
Maybe you can move and try, yeah.
There are no mountains. Our highest point, how high, what's the elevation right now in Addis Ababa? Does anyone know? Is it over 1,000 meters? Over 2,000 meters? Yeah, okay, so the elevation in Addis Ababa is over 2,000 meters above sea level. In the Bahamas, the highest point on one island is 60 meters. Wow. Right, so that's like really, really short. So why this is a problem is with climate change. As the environment is changing, sea levels are rising, ocean storms are getting more intense. So the people who live in my community are being impacted, just like so many people here in Ethiopia, whether it's drought or what are some of the impacts of climate change that we have here in Ethiopia? Does anyone know what they might be? Drought, maybe flooding. We have flooding in some areas, droughts in some other areas. Did anyone think of anything else? Yeah, you don't know? Okay, so temperature changes. So all of this is tied. And what many people, can I get the boys in the back to listen up, please? Hey, can you come a little bit closer? So I'm a marine biologist. So I study the ocean. I'm an ocean scientist. And it's my mission to connect students in the mountain with the ocean. Because what you may not know is that the ocean is your birthright. So even though Ethiopia in this moment doesn't have an immediate ocean coastline, the United Nations has a recent agreement which is called Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction, which means that every single country, including landlocked countries, have access to the biodiversity in the high seas, in the oceans. All right, so that means learning about the ocean not only is important for everyone here in the mountains to understand, because a lot of our goods come in by shipment, right? A lot of our rain patterns, which many people don't think about, but the weather cycles are completely connected. All right? So I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to say climate, and then you're going to say action. And we're going to do a little roll call for a moment. All right, so when I say climate, you say
action.
Okay, well, we're going to have to be a lot better than that. All right, climate? You don't sound serious. Y'all don't sound serious at all. Climate?
Action.
Climate?
Action.
Climate?
Action.
Climate?
Action.
Okay, so now I'm going to split it up. So from my friends over here and this side, you guys are going to be team 1. And everyone on that side, you guys are going to be team 2. Alright, so we're going to see which team is the most enthusiastic about driving climate action. Alright, so I'll start, you'll echo, and then we'll go back and forth, and then we'll see which team is filled with enthusiasm. Alright, so climate action. Climate action. Climate action. Climate action. Climate action. Climate action. Teachers, do we have which group is full of enthusiasm? One over the other? This side over here. Okay. So I want to take a minute. Can I get everyone's attention again? I want to take a minute to talk about what are real things that we can do today to help address just all the issues as it relates to the environment. And sometimes it can be really easy to be like, well, why am I drinking out of a paper straw when we have so many global issues like wars that are going on? And the reality is, war is also a huge barrier to us being able to address environmental issues. I think it's really teens. I know it's the morning, and I know some of you guys probably are excited to get to class and to go on to other subjects, but I ask that you take a minute to listen. Okay. So, how many of you enjoy math? Can I get your hands if you enjoy math? Alright, some of you like that. What about science? How many of you guys are science people? What about art? Any artists in the room? Artists. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with this last message. Climate change is a global issue that demands a global solution. So we're not going to solve the problems that we have here in Ethiopia unless we take into account how Ethiopia fits into a bigger picture. And that's the story of the global community. Because this is where our society has evolved to. What happens in China impacts us here in the mountains. What happens in the mountains impacts people in the islands. So 4 things that I'm going to leave you with. 1, if your school offers water fountains or an ability for you to fill up a water bottle, this can be a really great way for us to pivot out of single-use plastics. So I know I'm drinking out of a plastic bottle. I see a lot of reusable bottles today, which is really good. Sometimes it's very difficult for us to be able to have someplace to fill up a water bottle, so often we may end up having a plastic water bottle. That's a really tangible action that the school can commit to, that students can commit to try and reduce our single-use plastic. It's okay, I had one today too. We all make mistakes. And I think that's the second point, is that, climate change, as much as there is the immediate action that we can do as an individual. So a second suggestion that we used to do with our community in the Bahamas, we had the 20-piece of garbage rule. So if you saw a friend or someone throw a piece of garbage, either drop the bar and then drop it, or the water bottle, the chips, we would make them stop and pick up 20 other pieces of garbage. Alright, so this is a cool way, sometimes not so fun for the person who threw out the garbage, but it's a good way for us to keep each other accountable. Because the only way things change, your teachers can tell you you have to do things, but if you don't actually do it, nothing's going to change. And we're at a stage right now in life where, especially young people, you have access to so much knowledge, so much information, and you can drive such influence. And so that influence can be positive or negative. You really get to choose how you want to show up. Alright, so we talked about the water bottles, we talked about the garbage. The third thing is learn about a different country. Find a country on the map, once a day, once a week. Figure out what language do they speak, where are they located, what ecosystems exist in their country. Because you may not think about it, but the water that starts in Lake Tana goes all the way out to the Indian Ocean. Right, so it goes through many countries, many farmlands, factories, and it connects directly to the ocean. In the same respect, how many people know that Ethiopia is part of a port project in Kenya? Does anyone know that? Maybe a few people? So often, when we are building, I'm losing you guys, when we're building construction, when we're developing, we've seen it happen even within the school, right? Green School lost some of its compound when the Riverside project happened. So development changes infrastructure, it changes land. One thing I think that you can really explore is how and think about how different ecosystems around you are changing. Was there a water body there before? The river, for example, I think is another great location that we can work on with the school, because there's a lot of garbage in the back there. And so that we can maybe set up a research project with the environmental club that helps us kind of track the amount of debris in both on campus and in the surrounding areas, and then couple that with an effort to clean up our neighborhood. And so that can be a really tangible action that we can take together to drive science, to help us understand how our environment is changing, and then also a reminder that we're responsible for our environment. All right, and the last thing, I said 4 things, so the last thing I'm going to ask you to do, when you have a chance, whether it's in a book or on your phone, when you get access to a phone or a computer, when you get access to a computer, look up an ocean animal. I want you to take a minute and I want you to find out information about a creature that lives in the ocean. All right, my favorite animal is an eagle ray. An eagle, exactly, an eagle ray. So this is my favorite ocean animal, but I want you to take a look and see if you can learn a little bit about a new ecosystem. Okay, and so with that, I'm going to wrap up. I want to say thank you so much for listening and connecting. And I hope that we can work together to facilitate an exchange and a trip between your school here and the Bahamas and the schools in the Bahamas, and figure out how we can build a collective environmental action together. Thank you.